Welcome to our April 28th regular meeting of the Wappinger Town Board. May Town Clerk Joe Paoloni please call the roll.
Councilman Beal.
Here.
Councilwoman Bettina. Councilman Phillips.
Here.
Councilman Casella.
Here.
Supervisor Cappuccini.
Here. In just a moment, we'll invite you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, followed by an invocation by our good friend, Reverend Nathan Robinson of Chapel Falls Christian Fellowship, and that will be followed by a moment of silent meditation in memory of Pope Francis. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we thank you for the town of Wappingers, a wonderful community many call home. As our founding fathers began each meeting in prayer, we pray for our board officials that you might grant them great wisdom and guidance as they consider the business of our town. May their labor here tonight bring great help and hope and quality of life to the families and businesses of this community. May you grant them great vision as they consider today, prepare for tomorrow, and plan for the future. May all that they do be for the good of the people and the sustainment of our environment. It is in the name of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It is in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you, Pastor. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Do we want to add these two new items?
We have to have a motion and a second, then discussion.
Okay, so I'll second it.
Moved by Councilman Phillips, second by Councilman Casella. On the discussion, I believe that our Recreation Director has added two resolutions on the dais for our deliberation. One is a resolution amending and correcting salaries of gymnastics camp instructors. The other one is a resolution amending non-resident fees for the town of Wappinger summer camp. Do I have a motion to add to the agenda?
I'll make the motion to add.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Casella, second by Councilman Phillips. On the amended agenda? Aye. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much. The agenda has been adopted as amended. Do I have a motion to acknowledge the minutes of the April 14th, 2025 Town Board meeting?
Move.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Phillips, second by Councilman Beal. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We have one public hearing before us this evening. That is the public hearing on introducing a local law for the purpose of amending Chapter 240 zoning of the town code to include short-term rentals. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll move it.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Casella, second by Councilman Beal. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much. The public hearing is now open. If anyone would like to come to the podium, we ask that you state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes. Seeing none. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll move it.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Casella, second by Councilman Beal. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Moving along to our public portion of the agenda. Do I have a motion to open the public portion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Phillips, second by Councilman Beal. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much. Folks, if you'd like to speak on agenda items, we ask that you state your name and address for the record. Yep. Mr. Suarez.
Sorry, guys, I meant to catch you before this started, but I know we're going to talk about some goals, right, that were on the agenda?
Correct.
Under new business.
Okay,
Yes.
so can I talk about
If
that?
you just want to state your name and address.
Oh,
for
I'm
the
sorry,
record.
Christopher Suarez, 1 Peggy Lane, Wappingers Falls.
Perfect. Yes, Mr. Suarez, we are in receipt of a few different quotes, I think, on the seating, but the goals are on here already on the agenda.
Yep, so
So
I just wanted to make a comment on the goals,
go right
Sure.
ahead.
because the Castle Point is currently underwater, and I think that's where we wanted to put the goals. I was just going to suggest, if we do purchase the goals and they come in time, that they be put in at Martsfield for the time being until such time Castle Point is ready to go. And
We can
That was just
coordinate
my
with the
suggestion.
Buildings and Grounds Department and Wappinger United Soccer Club to make sure they go where you need. I know that the Highway Department is taking care of the flooding issue out at Castle Point, and we'll go from there.
okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we understand that the flooding issue out there is a temporary issue and not a permanent issue. So, fantastic. And then, again, just for your gratification and then for your members, the town board has obtained various quotes for reseeding. I don't know if we want to update the town on that tonight, or if we would like to move forward on that at a later date. We can always bring that up later on in the meeting. But otherwise, the goals are on the agenda. Okay? Any further public comment? Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public portion?
I'll move it.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Casella, second by Councilman Phillips. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Folks, as many of you know, we are undertaking a much-needed update to our comprehensive plan. As you know, we have been addressing the issue of overdevelopment in our community and trying to limit the burden and the potential impact to our residents, to our infrastructure, and to our open space. We have been working on this for over a year. Obviously, we are still in the moratorium timeframe. For those of you who may not be aware, we've retained the LaBerge Group and Chris Spencer, retired City of Albany planner, to assist us in this matter. And we've held several public roundtable discussions. We've held several town board meeting discussions to engage both the town board and the community in this open dialogue, which we think that we have done fairly well, considering the time restraints and what we are facing in terms of development in this town. We did ask Mr. Spencer to come back, provide another open comment period, and essentially just an update on what we're talking about. I forwarded the town board, my colleagues, the sample draft comprehensive plan updates. So again, in public forum, we wanted to make sure that we had the dialogue about these proposed changes that are to housing and infrastructure. That's it. This is not a complete comprehensive plan update. This is isolated to those two very crucial topics. So I would invite Mr. Spencer to the podium, some opening remarks, and then we can go through from any additional questions from the town board and open dialogue.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. So the first thing we did was really try to understand your existing comprehensive plan, read that thoroughly, understand where the goals were coming from, where the strategies were, and really get a sense of what's changed since then. So one of the first recommendations we made was really in the coming years is to undertake a full comprehensive plan update that would include the entire comprehensive plan, not just the areas where we know there are some issues. Second thing we did was really try to look at those issues and look at what's changed since that comprehensive plan was undertaken. To look at, number one, where has the growth happened? Where are the issues in terms of quality of life? But also what goals you've already met that no longer are needed within that comprehensive plan. And also to look at some of the things that it talks about that really are probably no longer relevant. You know, it talks about the need to create office parks and business parks. There really is not a market for that right now because of the glut of office spaces and things like that. So that was something that we looked at in particular. The main thing we really looked at was, number one, what are the issues that are causing some of the strain on development and strain on infrastructure? So number one, I think, is zoning really needs to be something that can be relied upon from somebody who buys a property to understand what's going to happen next door, behind them, across the street. But it also needs to be relied upon in terms of understanding what is that growth, what is that trajectory. And that helps you as a community structure your infrastructure growth and planning, knowing what that is. What we found was that there really was a complete mismatch in terms of understanding what can be built next door to you. Typically, you look at the use table, and the use table will say, if you're in, this residential zone, this is what can be built, right? But in your zoning, there have been so many things that have been added over the years that make it really impossible for you to know that. So, for instance, if you were in a residential zone, you might not know, but it could easily there could be a creation of a development adjacent to you, behind you, or across the street that might have multifamily housing, might have commercial, might have all sorts of things that were not what you thought you were buying next to. It would be like if you bought property at the ocean front and you could see the ocean, but in front of you was an area that was zoned for single-family, one-story buildings. And you knew you bought a condo on the 7th floor, you had a great view, you figure made a good investment. But you didn't realize that there was a provision somewhere that said if you're either building affordable housing or you own X number of acres, you can build a 20-story building there. And that's called unpredictability, uncertainty. That's what you don't want in your zoning, and that's really what you have right now. It also, in terms of the unpredictability, you don't know, it's easy to look at the overall density and say, okay, we know what can be built here, what can be built there, but when you start looking at that and planning your infrastructure, and then that, instead of understanding that, okay, those could all be single-family houses, we know what the flow rate is for, in terms of sewers, we know what, how much the water capacity would be given sort of the standard 2-3 bedroom houses, you can plan for that. But when that could also become commercial, you don't know what that means. Is it a car wash? Is it a hotel? Is it a restaurant? Is it something that's a huge consumer of water and a huge discharge in terms of the overall sewage? Those are things you don't know and you can't plan for and you can't be ready for. And the same is going to be true with your roads and all those other things. You have to know what the traffic impacts might be. The only way you know what the traffic impacts might be is to know what could potentially get built. So those are what we saw. We also saw that there was an issue related to a lot of the conservation development or the clustering. Clustering in its essence is really to say, in this large acreage of land, this large area, you can take all of your development and you can put it in one single area. A lot of times that can be good because you can reduce the amount of roads, you can reduce the amount of miles of infrastructure, sewer, all those things that you have to do. But in order to do it properly, you really have to know what could get built. So it's not a simple math equation to say, you know, you have 100 acres, you have a 1 acre zoning, therefore you can build 100 housing units within 5 acres of that area. What you really have to know is what would that conventional subdivision look like? What are the lot sizes that are required? How much road would that require? How much drainage? How much other infrastructure? What other constraints development are there? Are there wetlands? Are there steep slopes? Are there any of those other things where you would normally not be able to do that? And typically what you would do is then create an engineering drawing that shows all of that. And so now instead of maybe having 100 developable parcels, you have 40. But what you have is the opposite. You don't have that. So in that area where normally under a conventional you could build 40, now you're going to allow at least 100. And in most of the cases in the scenario that we looked at, it was a 200% increase over what would be allowed in a conventional subdivision. We looked at the overall areas for multifamily. So you have the RMF 3 and the 5, I think it is. Those are the areas that allow for multifamily housing, and I think it equates to about 18 acres throughout the town. We looked at all the different options that can happen in terms of multifamily, and I don't have my notes in front of me, I apologize, but it is astronomical in terms of the area, the land area that can be multifamily or commercial. And it's completely unpredictable, and it can keep growing because once one of those developments happens and it becomes a mixed use, then another one can become adjacent to that. So it really creates just this explosion and unpredictability. And again, the comprehensive plan is really silent in terms of what is a good use. It's not saying multifamily is a bad use or single family is a good use. It's really talking about what is it as a town that you want? What are the goals? And are you able to sort of understand what those goals are and predict it for people and their quality of life? So if you have growth that's happening that you can't sustain, you're going to have impacts on traffic, on sewer, on schools, on emergency services and protection. Those are all things that you, as a village or as a town, have to take control over and be ahead of the curve. Otherwise, it degrades everybody who's lives here, degrades their quality of life. So I think that's kind of the approach we took. We try to keep it as simple as possible in terms of correcting those issues and making the recommendations for future changes and future zoning changes that would help correct those problems. So I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Spencer. Again, to briefly recap, again, this is why we're doing it. Essentially, the uncertainty when it comes to people's property values and their greatest investment, which is their home and their quality of life. It was very alarming to, I know, many of our colleagues as well as many of our neighbors and residents when last time you were here, you showed up on the screens what is zoned multifamily in the town of Wappinger. And then you continue to show map after map after map that showed, well, using this special use permit and this section of code and this area here, all of these essentially loopholes that close to the majority of the town, if not all of the town, majority of the town was eligible for this multifamily, mixed-use, high-density housing that essentially people would not be aware of typically. And in my opinion, I believe in the opinion of my colleagues, that is just unreasonable, and that is just not smart planning to essentially have a 200% increase in density on one property be allowed in our code as it stands today. And that is why we are doing this. With that, I would ask, what do you see as a fair timeline for this town board? I believe that all of us would like to move forward with adopting these changes rather quickly and then start moving forward with town code changes. What would you say is the fastest track to getting this done?
Sure, I think, we can provide you with the recommended zoning changes and all the seeker documents to start this process probably by your next meeting. Again, the seeker process would be you guys declaring, as a board, declaring lead agency, because you guys are the ones who make the decisions on these, so you're the appropriate body for that. And then to look at the referrals that need to happen for the seeker process. So there's a couple of them. One is going to be to the planning board. Another is going to be to the county planning board. Those are the referrals, and there's a certain amount of time. I think the planning board requires about 45 days of review, and the county requires 30. So baked into that would be then holding a public hearing on both the comprehensive plan and the zoning changes, and then allowing for that public comment period to extend, I think, about 20 or 30 days. So all of this would be wrapping up towards the end of August, prior to the expiration of the moratorium.
Fantastic. Okay. And any new projects obviously coming in under a new section of code or any new projects in general would still be subject to the moratorium. And of course, subject to any new code changes and comp plan.
Correct, or any of the changes I think that you are contemplating in the zoning as well. So not just the moratorium, anything else that would be under that umbrella.
Fantastic. Do we have any questions, concerns from my colleagues?
No, I appreciate the work you did on it. It was very, very robust.
Yes.
I know we're doing a small part of the comp plan, but it was fantastic, and I appreciate the work.
Thank you.
Yeah, I certainly appreciate your work. With respect to one of the loopholes that could occur, I happen to live in an R2040 zone where a hypothetical scenario was presented where a subject could purchase a parcel within that zone. If the parcel is large enough, could essentially create under a special use permit, it could create a multifamily scenario off of a cul-de-sac in an R2040, right? So that certainly is not something that we want to occur, where essentially you would have folks living in higher density housing, traveling through through a neighborhood that is, right now, as it is currently zoned, single acre or half acre zoning. So I appreciate identifying that loophole and finding a solution for it. That said, I've been here a long time, and I was here for the 2010 master plan, and obviously there are trends in regional planning that come and go, and there's different thought processes that exist, right? And I remember specifically sitting here discussing the benefits of clustering, right? And having long conversations about conservation subdivision and the benefits of it, okay? So I do believe there are some benefits with respect to taking a large tract of land, isolating the development into a smaller acreage area. But to your point, you also have to evaluate the impacts, right? So you have to look at where those people are going to be exiting to and entering, right? You have to look at infrastructure. So I believe that 15 years ago, perhaps, those impacts perhaps were not evaluated at the level that they should have been deliberated, right? And I just want to put that out there since I was part of those conversations. And we literally spent hundreds of hours, Joe, you were here, on that comprehensive plan. I mean, hundreds of hours and probably $200,000+ on that plan. So I want to make sure that we understand that it wasn't anything that was created quickly. There was a great deal of thought and a great deal of input from the public. So we are in a different time now with respect to the amount of population that traverses this town, right? I don't think there's been any major population changes in this town. We've been up 2%, we've been down 2%, we've been up 4%. I think we're around 4% growth over a 22-year period. That's nothing. But what has changed is the 40,000 cars a day on Route 9 and the 19,000 cars a day on 9D, right? That's a challenge. So we need to be cognizant of that. I also believe that we must be cognizant of allowing those that live in our town to stay in this town. And I don't think we're going to find a solution through comprehensive planning on how to do that, but I can tell you there is nowhere to live in this town. I'm losing volunteer firefighters on a monthly basis because they cannot find a place to live in this town. They finally get to the age where they're moving out of their parents' house and there's nowhere to live. So we need to be cognizant of that as well. First-time home buyers are not going to be moving to Shamrock Hills, right? They're not going to buy a McMansion. So we need to be cognizant of having housing that is affordable, and I'm using the Webster's Dictionary definition of affordable, right? Which today is even a challenge. But I think it's important, right? I think that we have young folks in this town that get involved and want to stay involved, and we want to ensure that they can land in this town. And that is very challenging. What also concerns me is the state's efforts to circumvent home rule in some respects when it comes to offering incentives for multifamily housing development. I'm not sure if there's anything we can do within our comprehensive plan to strategize against that. But that's a real issue that's happening across this state. And my philosophy has been, since I've sat in this chair, if we must entertain development, I would rather entertain development from a partnership standpoint rather than an adversarial standpoint. So I appreciate your work. I think it's well needed at this juncture to revisit these sections. And I appreciate the supervisor's work Monday through Friday on this. We obviously received the correspondence. We're following along with the proposals, and I look forward to additional discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any further discussion?
No, just a real quick comment. So again, I want to reiterate some of the things that our colleagues have sent here. The map overlay was fantastic. That was really, really informative. I like the fact that you now put a timeline out there for us that we need to know by the end of August we're going to be at a point in time where we're going to have to start making some real decisions, because again, the moratorium will be over. So again, I thank you for all your hard work and effort out there. I know a lot of time and effort, and I appreciate you sending us up-to-date information too, so we can make an informed decision. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Spencer. We're looking forward to continuing this conversation. Are there any comments or any concerns from the public? If there's none, we obviously encourage an email correspondence that way. But thank you very much, Mr. Spencer. We appreciate your time. Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Beal, could you try that other microphone next to you? For some reason it's not.
Yeah, this was not lit up.
Use that.
So I'm just going to repeat my entire diatribe. No, I'm
Don't you
kidding.
dare.
I'll switch.
We'll watch the rerun.
All right. Pardon me.
It's good thing you work in sound.
One hat at a time.
There you go. If you don't mind, we'll move along to the resolutions, to the non-consent resolution. We have Resolution 2025-100 as a resolution adopting a local law for the purpose of amending Chapter 240 zoning of the town code to include short-term rentals. So we have a motion for discussion.
Move.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Beal, second by Councilman Phillips. On the discussion, obviously, we have been talking about essentially making these Airbnbs, these short-term rentals, safer in our community. This town board has taken a rather laissez-faire approach, which I agree with, of not over-regulating things in our community. But obviously, there have been a number of horrific incidents and events throughout this county and throughout this country revolving Airbnbs and short-term rentals that we as a community want to get ahead of it and want to make sure that we are offering those who stay here a safe place to stay, and those who own these residents an avenue to make their properties safe. We have talked about this at a few town board meetings. We have received the comments from our town attorney. I would yield to Mr. Legori if he has any comments or additional input.
Just one comment. I realize that the formatting is still off with the numbering. Doesn't change the impact or the words of the law, but I'm going to have it retyped and sent to Joe so that when it's filed, there's no numerical errors in the document. It skips around 1, 2, 3, and it's just the way that it was formatted. So we'll clean that up.
Yes, obviously, we've made edits and changes over
Yeah.
time. Just,
That doesn't impact the need for an additional public hearing.
No, there's,
I bring that up, obviously.
yes.
no, these are authorized, we're not going to
Changes.
change the language of any of the words in the document. It's merely the numbering of the paragraphs
Yes.
the sub-paragraphs they jump, and our code should be, we want it to be perfect.
Oh,
So-
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, no, the substance of this is needed. Obviously, we talked about higher fines to those who, blatantly ignore the town and ignore safety concerns. I mean, that's where this all stems from, folks. So I believe all of the concerns of my colleagues were taken into account in this draft, and we feel that this is a solid piece of legislation to put forward.
Let me just say, we have discussed Airbnb short-term rentals for over 10 years since the genesis of this idea. And I think really, as the supervisor alluded to, the moment that we collectively decided that we have to legislate them was the tragedy in the town of Clinton, where smoke detectors were not working and not present in an Airbnb, and tragically a mother and a child died within the last few number of months. So from a public safety standpoint, that is paramount. We have discussed Airbnbs with Barbara Berti. We've attended a lot of training on Airbnbs at the Association of Towns. We've heard both sides of the argument with respect to legislating versus non-legislation, and at this point in time, I don't think we can find any justification to continue status quo, and I appreciate the town board being forward-thinking with this.
Thank you, Councilman.
And in the meantime, if you're watching this meeting and you have an Airbnb, obviously there'll be a grace period by which this law goes into effect, but if you can, in the meantime, ensure that your Airbnb is meeting safety standards and has working smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors, that would be greatly appreciated.
Yes.
Don't these technically have to be registered, though, and all those things should be fit before they get an approval from the town anyway?
Oh, yeah, under the legislation, yeah, I'm just saying in the meantime, right now, if folks can please make sure that they're doing that, certainly under the Airbnb agreement that they have with the website, they're supposed to be doing this. That was supposed to be occurring in the town of Clinton. They agreed to those safety standards and did not meet those.
My biggest concern, though, is how do you identify those that aren't registered with an Airbnb?
You just go on the website and look them up.
Well, I know, but the point of the matter is it's more work for our planning
It
and
is.
zoning department, so we just need to make sure that we take that into account because, you're only staffed for so many jobs in that particular department.
Well, we're
so-
going to have to, and we've talked about this, it's no secret, we're going to have conversations about additional staff in that department. The fees that are paid for registering these, in theory, should be going toward paying for
Agreed.
the staff, right? I mean, it sounds good to say that, but at the end of the day, fringe has increased significantly, so it's hard to calculate
$40,000
sometimes.
employee.
But ultimately, government's first responsibility is to ensure the safety of its citizens. And again, we have been on both sides of this argument, and now we have no choice, in my opinion, but to be on this side of it.
Yeah. And as we learned through this process, that City of Beacon, for example, our chairman of the planning board was director of code enforcement there, and he shared with us that upon registering your Airbnb or your short-term rental with that website, they have to provide proof of permitting, proof of inspection from that municipality. So essentially, they cannot move forward until they have proven that proof. Beyond that, if someone is offering a short-term rental independently, I don't know who would be finding out about that rental. Essentially, that's more of a boarding house than anything. But for the most part, this would be cracking down on a substantial amount of them. And again, we want to offer a grace period. This is not a money grab. We do not need to do that. We are stressing the fact that we need to obviously have people register, make sure that safety enhancements are done if they're not there already. But we do not want to be penalizing those who currently have them. We want to make sure that everyone is registered. The registration permit fee is rather low in comparison to other municipalities, because again, we want to make this an incentive for people to come into compliance. Okay. Seeing no further discussion. We already had a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much. The local law has passed. Thank you very much. Resolution 2025-101, resolution authoring settlement of tax cert proceeding in the matter of Wappinger Shopping Plaza, LLC. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Casella, second by Councilman Beal. Discussion?
Just to clarify, Wappinger Shopping Plaza is Hannaford, right?
Correct, yes.
And we just see what the difference is.
Wappinger Plaza, corner of Myers Corners Road and Route 9. They are looking for a tax cert. I would love
Okay.
them if they maybe added
It's
the
on that-
turning lane enhancements that we needed and filled the old Sonic and upgraded the facade, but
It appears that this is on the building that previously had the physical well spa in it.
correct. Which is now at, I believe, 80% capacity since the physical wellness spa is still empty.
Right, and that can stay empty as far as I'm concerned.
I would love them to find a new tenant with a new use.
I have no objection to this, but I will say again, with respect to Wappinger Plaza, we have to do something about the cinder blocks and the barricade that are in the turn lane to Myers. I know why it's there, but I watched the tractor trailer pull in from Myers Corners Road, from Route 9, a big refrigerated tractor trailer to Hannaford, run the whole thing over the other day. So that's not a permanent solution.
No, and you're 100% right, and this, we looked into our rights when it comes to this. And besides the county or the town government coming in to install it, the next opportunity we have to essentially mandate that to be done is when they reopen their site plan. So if anything comes forward with Sonic, or they're doing any other major renovations there to that site, that is a top priority there. We are trying to work with them, as we mentioned at a previous town board meeting, to come into compliance with their site plan with something as simple as the trees and bushes that used to be along Myers Corners
Yeah,
Road that they
yeah.
hacked down. And again, we continue to try to work with them to bring them into compliance. If they refuse to, we'll obviously have to go to other avenues.
Yeah, I just think that, that blockade could also cause an issue.
Absolutely. No doubt.
And I understand why it's there, so I'll certainly support this.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we had a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much. Resolution 2025-102, and that is a resolution authorizing the purchase of 2 soccer goals. Do I have a motion
I'll
for
move it.
discussion?
Second.
Moved by Councilman Casella, second by Councilman Phillips for discussion. We obviously had a very fruitful discussion with Wappinger United Soccer and all of our amazing young athletes that came out to our last town board meeting. We've worked collaboratively with their Vice President, Mr. Suarez, who came to the podium earlier. And we offered, before any of those town board meetings and before those discussions, both Martz Field and Castle Point as 2 soccer field options for Wappinger United Soccer to use while we make improvements to Rockingham and Airport Park soccer complexes. Obviously, as we noted earlier in the meeting, we have some flooding issues, which are temporary. It's not a permanent issue. And once that's remediated, we can obviously open those fields to soccer. But obviously, we can use these goals at Martz and or Castle Point. I believe Wappinger United Soccer has said that they will obtain 2 other goals, which will obviously serve both locations. So there'll be 4 goals in total for 2 locations.
Well, this is a first for me. I just came from soccer, not for me, but for my son out at the airport. And, obviously it's a little wet around that perimeter too, because I walked around the whole property. But, I mention this frequently. Now that my kids are playing in the sports, I see a different perspective of everything. And I just want to say the staff and the coaches do such an incredible job. My 6-year-old was getting yelled at. It was great. I was loving it. What are you doing? Kick it over there. So I just thought it was great. And I was standing there thinking about, these are people that often leave work and then go and coach these games and clinics and, just like baseball. It's just incredible the amount of hours that these folks put in, and the least we can do is do our best to facilitate within reason. Obviously, we have to work within a budget, but whatever we can do to help support these programs, since the Lions' share of the work is being done by you and your team, and on the Little League side, the Little League staff and their team. So certainly I'll be supporting this as well.
So this is a partnership, and that's what we're trying to do here. So we have a great partnership with Little League today. We want to try to improve our partnership with soccer as well. We've had an opportunity to do a number of things, like putting the water over at Airport. Finally did some paving over at Rockingham, but now we're going to start talking about field maintenance and other things we can do. So again, this is about $4,000 for a couple goalposts. I think it's a great thing. I think the supervisor also mentioned, and we won't do it at this meeting, but we have actually 3 estimates to talk about reseeding potential fields, something that probably will be done in the fall, but it's something we like to talk about now if we can, again, at the next meeting. Hopefully that's on the agenda, but that's something we should entertain as well here. Again, some of those fields are pretty torn up, especially over at Rockingham. That's the one primarily used, Bill, as you probably know, because Airport's very wet, so there's not a lot of opportunity there. Again, we've got some opportunity at both Castle Point and Martz Field with their new opportunities. So hopefully the goalposts will go into Castle Point, the one field in between the softball field and the end of the soccer fields there. That's what's wet today. Hopefully that dries out after some things are taken care of down there, and they'll be able to use that too. But again, it's not a full-size field. Really, the big full-size fields are at Rockingham and also at Airport. But again, that's a temporary, and hopefully we're going to work with the soccer guys here. And they do a lot of work, just like Little League does. They probably don't get enough appreciation for what they do, because I can remember coaching myself and being out there a lot doing the fields. Actually, Coach Chris and his younger brother. So I know what it takes to be out there on the fields, and again, I can appreciate all the hard work and volunteer that goes into it. So I certainly support this.
The challenge is, at Airport, while my 6-year-old was playing, my 4-year-old wanted to run, so we walked around the entire perimeter. It's obviously wet around the entire perimeter. It's wetlands around the whole thing.
Yeah.
So that's why we have these challenges.
We identified the issue actually out there, there are 2 culvert pipes on the New Hackensack Cemetery property.
Okay.
That are completely obstructed, not by beaver dams or anything like that, but just the fact that they are undersized culvert pipes, and they're completely blocked by debris, branches, things like that. And we have retained permission from the two caretakers of the New Hackensack Cemetery to clear those obstacles, and that would actually empty out our fields. So it's just finding the right time and the right person to remove those obstacles. But essentially, there is an entire drainage ditch running parallel to the cemetery and Airport Drive that's bone dry because it's backed up.
So,
much.
okay, so it's pushing the water out the culvert toward the soccer field then?
Exactly. So that's the
Okay.
issue out there, and we've been out there with the cemetery folks, we've been out there with soccer folks and explained the situation, and whether that's a volunteer that we were talking about or someone from the town government, we were looking at, obviously, trying to mediate that situation. As you look at there, these pipes are just, they're just so undersized and a problem. So that's what's causing the major issue out there, which is on our radar.
Gotcha.
So,
Hopefully, when you're out there, too, you notice there's no mosquitoes.
yes, there's no mosquitoes.
Well, I think it's too early, right? I mean, there's
No,
not,
we sprayed
No, we
already.
sprayed.
oh, there's none at my house either, so you did a great job.
Yeah.
We put the extra over your house, not good.
Yep, and again, I want to emphasize that this was an environmentally friendly spray.
Absolutely.
That focused only on mosquitoes, ticks, things that we don't want our kids around, so.
Yeah, well, we'll see if my tan from today works out. but-
Is that what you call that?
Well, I don't tan.
I was wondering why you were all red over there. I couldn't figure that out.
That's from the sun for an hour.
It's the Irish tan in them.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so we had a motion, second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None, thank you very much, motion passes. Congratulations. All right, Resolution 2025-103, a resolution authorizing, subject to permissive referendum, the issuance of $1 million bonds of the town of Wappinger, Dutchess County, New York, to pay the cost of the reconstruction and resurfacing of various roads through and in said town. Do I have a motion for discussion?
I'll move it.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Casella, second by Councilman Phillips. Essentially, folks, as you've seen through our press release, the highway superintendent and the town have moved forward with paving 15 roads in our town. Very exciting, all 20-plus years old. We have a substantial amount of money in the budget that is provided by the state of New York through CHIPS and Pave New York funding. So in order to move forward with the process and get ahead of the game, we started paving in April. This is essentially to bond for the remainder amount for this year and next year, which we're looking to make an amendment to this resolution to make this a 2-year bond rather than just a 1-year bond.
So would you say instead of $1 million bond, do it 2.3?
I would be in favor of a 2.3. Okay?
So the reason why we look at 2 years, right now, we talked to our bond counsel. Bond counsel said the rates right now are between 3.4 and 3.5%. That rate's been relatively steady. They don't expect that to change in '26. So they actually recommended that we go ahead and do a 2-year bonding. Again, you don't have to use it, but what it does is it saves us money down the road. It saves us money from paying bond counsel, the amount of money you have to pay up front for them to do the bonding, et cetera. So what you'll save is probably $30,000 to $40,000 by bonding it all together. So again, that's one of the things we wanted to look at here.
Absolutely. And you'll notice last year we did not need to bond because we had the remainder of that 2-year bond.
Correct.
From 2 years prior, that we were able to execute that money through a resolution that we approve at our reorg meeting every year, allows myself as the supervisor and the highway superintendent to enter into contract and to pave these roads. Bonding then, of course, requires additional town board approval. So, with that, any further discussion?
I agree, and thank you for the work that's been done in Tall Trees.
It's our pleasure. And again, we look at, the highway superintendent and I go out, we work collaboratively on various roads in the town that are in need. Most of them are 20-plus years old, or were poorly constructed developer roads that we've had to go back in and upgrade. And yes, Tall Trees was done. Obviously, folks, if you live on a certain road that's affected, the highway department will go out. They will leave a note at your home letting you know the schedule and the time frame about a week or so before, just making sure that you are aware of what's going on. That's also why we sent out our press release notifying folks of, the paving and the road reconstruction, most of which a couple weeks before. So,
There were a number of folks, too, that were talking about the manhole covers being up too high. They didn't realize the roads were getting paved. They're like, what
Yes.
did you guys do? We're running over these things, and we're getting car damage.
And
But
this is
that's why they started
something
it.
that I have to give credit to the highway department, that they are doing, that was not done previously. They are milling down all of the roads. So we get a lot of calls and concerns from residents saying, oh, you're paving my road. It's going to be 3 inches higher. Well, we're going back in, we're milling down the road down to its sub-base and
Right.
paving back that what was there. So your road might be lower or the same height that it was previously. And again, if there are any concerns, please reach out to the highway department. Mike and his team out there are truly fantastic, and they'll take care of the curbing, they'll take care of the driveway aprons, all these different concerns that we hear from residents, they will take care of if it's within the roadway construction issues.
Yeah, if you get a lot of rain after they pave and there's an issue with where the water's going, you call the highway department. Sometimes that happens. It's difficult for them to pitch it on a blue sky day, and sometimes they have to come back and repitch it to ensure that the water's going in the right direction. It's not uncommon.
Perfect. Thank you. Motion and a second has been made. Any further discussion on the amended resolution? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much. The motion passes. Resolution 2025-104, correspondence log. Do I have a motion? Moved by Councilman Phillips.
Second.
Second by Councilman Beal. On the discussion, I would like to note that there is a letter in here from Central Hudson noting something that we have talked about time and time again on this dais and out in the community, of a substantial 8.8% increase in Central Hudson rates that are now before the New York State Public Service Commission. We, as a town, obviously oppose any sort of outrageous increases like this that fall directly onto our residents. I have drafted a letter that I will be sending out to the town board for your consideration, that we send out to the Public Service Commission on behalf of the nearly 30,000 people of the town of Wappinger opposing this 8.8% increase that is in front of the Public Service Commission and requested by Central Hudson. It is truly outrageous after we have just gone through 2 years of consecutive increases, one of which was 14%. Now they're at 8.8. And obviously, I wanted to bring this to both the residents concerned and my colleagues on the dais, my opinion and stance on this.
Absolutely. And for public notice, there is a in-person public statement hearing Wednesday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon in the town of Poughkeepsie on Over Rocker Road. So for all those people who don't work, which is, make it really convenient for Central Hudson, you can go there and make your public comments.
And I would like to note, along the lines of Central Hudson, I did receive a note today from their district manager that the road work has been completed on Route 9D through Houstonville. Their gas line replacement, again, that was not a Town of Wappinger project, that was Central Hudson project that we've talked about from this dais. And the end of May, they anticipate going through and milling the road and repaving the road. So the gas line replacement project itself has been completed, but in the latter half of May, they will be milling the road and repaving Route 9D in their work zone area. So I just want to make sure people are aware.
And on the last day of work, they hit an 8-inch gas line right there at Dean Avenue and 9D, which was pretty extensive response of the fire department and road closure on the last day of their work. So I'm glad that work is done. However, there's a significant size gas line that's running in that area, which has been part of the infrastructure expansion that's required of Central Hudson. With respect to the rate increase hearing before the Public Service Commission, again, we have voiced our objection to rate increases probably over 10 times since I've been here. Nothing ever happens, nothing ever changes. The Public Service Commission approves these rate increases, and I'm not going to blame Central Hudson for this, because NYSEG customers and Con Ed customers and O&R customers are facing the same exact type of situation. This is a delivery charge increase. They're looking for an 8.9%, I believe, delivery charge increase. And if you've been looking at your electric bill or your gas bill like I do, you're already paying twice the electric use in your delivery charge. In other words, you can conserve all the energy you want, and you will still pay more. That's what's happening. And why is this happening? Because of New York State regulations. And that is 100% true. New York State regulations require these utility companies to meet certain standards and certain objectives and goals that are totally unrealistic and unsustainable. Central Hudson has to make infrastructure improvements as well as meet New York State's green energy goals mandated by the state legislature who voted for this. I've brought this up every year that I've sat here in this position and reminded folks that what they're doing in Albany is unsustainable because it's going to come back down on the residents of this town, which it is now, and make our electric and gas unaffordable. New York has an ambitious renewable energy goal aiming for 100% zero emission electricity by 2040. That's why this is happening. My budget billing was $200 a month. It's now $450 a month. And guess what? I did just like everybody else did. Changed to energy efficient appliances, changed all the light bulbs, everything that you're supposed to do. And guess what? The joke's on us because we can conserve all the energy in the world and our bill will still go up. That's a fact. And unless something happens in Albany, this is never going to change because the folks that are elected to Albany that are members of the Democratic Party are the reason why this legislation exists. That's a fact. It's a fact. It is a fact. You can argue. It is a fact.
We're not going to have a debate right here.
It is a fact. I stand by what I'm saying because the legislation that has been adopted. This is not politics. This is facts, ma'am.
Councilman, please not engage the audience.
Assemblyman Anil Beefan has written a letter to the Public Service Commission that says exactly what I just said. And again, he has been against this policy since he has been in Albany. Senator Rollison, same situation, been against these policies since he's been in Albany. Cannot change these policies. It is a fact how these policies were created and who takes ownership for the reason why our electric bills are now becoming unaffordable and unsustainable. We have folks that are on fixed incomes that have to make a decision on if they're going to put food in their refrigerator or pay their electric and gas bills. That is because of New York State legislation and New York State regulation. That is a fact. If you want to discuss it after the meeting, I'll be happy to show you specifically how this happened, or you can just pretend that's not the truth. But when you look at your electric bill, you will see that is what's happening. The electric bill that costs $250 in New York State costs $57 in Myrtle Beach. It's a fact. You can look at it. And there's a reason why New York State has the highest cost of living here in probably the Northeast at this point, although Connecticut's pretty close with their electric and gas as well. So that said, the town of Wappinger, I would like to see more than just a letter. I'd like to see a resolution crafted. We can craft it for the next meeting if you'd like. I have no objection to you sending a letter, but I'd like to see a specific resolution that indicates this point. I also would like to hear from our partners in Albany. I've talked to New York State Assemblyman Anil Beefan. He'll be happy to stand here and support what I just said. Senator Rob Rollison will be happy to stand here and support what I just said. So you're welcome to come back and listen to our state representatives echo what I just said if you'd like. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any further discussion on the correspondence log? Seeing none, we had a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much. We had the two resolutions laid on the desk by the Recreation Director. The first one, a resolution amending and correcting salaries for the gymnastics program. Do I have a motion for discussion?
Move.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Phillips, second by Councilman Casella. The Recreation Director had notified me that the resolution earlier that was approved and presented by the department was incorrect, and that the salaries of those directors and counselors in that program deserved a higher salary than last year's.
So last year in March, we actually approved these exact rates that are in this resolution. And then when it came to January, one of the best things about the reorg meeting is the ability to take your templates from last year, make some minor adjustments, and put it on the agenda. And when I did that, I did not take into account the fact that we had passed a second resolution for the gymnastics staff salary. So there isn't actually, with the exception of the minimum wage fluctuation, any increase in anyone's pay from last year to this year. It's just correcting it to be the same as last year.
So is this in your budget today?
Correct.
So the only problem is it's just misstated in,
In
I
the
guess,
In the reorg
resolution.
an
one.
authorized resolution?
Yeah.
So that's the only difference?
So
Yep.
for
Okay.
us to be able to pay them the correct amount that is budgeted.
Gotta have it.
Yeah.
Yes.
It, what it is the reorg resolution ended up decreasing everyone's pay because I had used the template from last year instead of the March resolution that we passed.
And that's a lesson learned, and it won't happen again, and we'll make sure that it's all taken care of moving forward.
How much of a difference is it? 5%, 10%?
I believe it's $2 an hour for the head, and then $1 an hour more for the assistant, and then the minimum wage fluctuation for
Okay.
the other
Got
ones.
Yes. Okay. We had a motion second. Any further discussion on the gymnastics program, which is very popular, by the way?
Oh, 164 kids.
164 kids in that program.
Nice.
Yes.
You doing that one too, Bill?
No.
You don't have a leotard?
There's only 5 days in a week.
Aaron does the other 2 days.
7.
All right.
Maybe 7.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Thank you very much. That resolution has been adopted. Be forwarded to the Personnel Division in the Comptroller's Office to make that adjustment.
Yes.
Next resolution is a resolution amending non-resident fees for the Town of Wappinger Summer Camp. Do I have a motion for discussion?
Move.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Phillips, second by Councilman Casella. On the discussion, obviously, we have grown our summer camp program to 2 locations, and that was mostly in part to, last year, we had a substantial waiting list for Town of Wappinger residents.
Yeah.
I was very proud that Martsfield, for the first time in well over 10 years, was 100% Town of Wappinger residents
Yeah.
at our summer camp program. It made me upset that we had to turn away Town of Wappinger residents. That's why we've expanded it to Castle Point Park as well. With that, we do have the room to accept non-residents this year to fill some of those gaps with those residents. Because we're allowed up to 120 residents at Castle Point.
That's what we're looking,
And so
yeah.
if we had those 60 surplus folks from last year go over to Castle Point, we have some wiggle room. We also hope that more town residents come in. But we feel strongly that the Town of Wappinger Summer Camp is affordable to Town of Wappinger residents. This is obviously for non-residents, to fill that gap because we have the space, and we felt that they should pay a higher fee, as they do have the luxury of going to their own hometown municipality,
Which is more expensive.
which is more
Much
expensive.
more. So
Much
even-
more expensive.
Even with this increase, and just so we know, having these prices approved doesn't mean we're like opening up to non-residents tomorrow or anything. This is just a proactive approach for if that's a route that we go down, we have the fees in place to be able to do it when we, or if we need to.
Didn't we have fees, though, in the budget for non-residents?
We did. This is an increase upon those.
Yes.
So we had some worked in for the previous years when we had accepted non-residents. We made no changes to any of the camp fees for this year, but we also weren't anticipating whether or not we would need or be able to or want to take non-residents this year. When looking at it, the fee could be, could have been a bit higher. So we decided to up the fee for the non-residents to not only keep it affordable for Wappinger, but to also offset some of those additional costs.
So essentially, we're getting ahead of the game. We are not increasing Town of Wappinger resident summer camp fee.
I guess I'm trying to figure out why we didn't take this into account in the plan time. If we knew we were going to increase, why
Well,
didn't
we
we?
did increase previously. I
But what?
asked the recreation director to increase even more.
So what is the cost for a town residence child?
On average, is what, about 400?
It fluctuates between 3 and 5, depending on the number of hours that they're there and the number of children that they have in the program.
So for one child, for regular hours, how much is it?
Let me pull that up on my phone. I was so focused on non-resident pricing at this exact moment that I will have to pull it
In
up.
comparison, and actually, I had to have a conversation with a town employee about this, they thought it was per week, $400-something
Yeah.
per week.
No.
And I
Most
explained that,
people
no, this
do,
is-
yeah.
This is for a 7-week program, $400, which is unheard of.
Yes.
I mean, I'm getting nods from the back of the room, nearly unheard of when it comes to children's programming. And that's, again, what we want to focus on for our town residents.
Yeah.
Those who do not live in the town of Wappinger, again, we consider it a luxury to be part of our program, a privilege. And again, you would still be coming in at a lower rate than all of the surrounding towns to the town of Wappinger.
And yes, Bill, I had it right on the money. It is $400 for the first child for regular hours.
How much for first child for extended hours?
For first child for extended hours, it is $5.
I said, that's what I said.
All right, so what happens if it's a Village of Wappingers Falls resident?
They are resident of the town of Wappinger,
Correct.
Okay,
on our side of the
yeah,
village.
I was going to say on our side of the bridge.
because they also have I believe they have a summer camp program.
They do.
Do we know what their cost is by any chance, or no? Just
Oddly
curious.
enough, the last I saw, I don't have the exact dollar amount, but their program only runs from 10 to 3.
Okay,
It's a limited program.
Yeah.
It's week by week.
right.
So it's not like how we have it
No.
operating. You're with us for the full 7 weeks. Theirs is a different hybrid program.
And the last time I checked their pricing, I believe if you were to go to every week, it would be more than what we charge.
Okay, I'm just trying to get a
Yeah.
baseline here. I don't disagree with this methodology. I think that residents should see a benefit in utilizing our summer camp for their kids. It shouldn't be the same as sending them to all sport, right?
No.
So, trust me, I know all these prices now. But I think it's fair. What I would not want to see, though, is us inadvertently filling up the camp and then finding out there's more town residents that want to get in, right? Is there a deadline for town residents before we open it up to non-town residents?
So now that we are entertaining the possibility of doing it, where last year we did not entertain the possibility, I will be sending out we are not accepting non-residents until after, say, May 15th.
Jessica and I have had a conversation about doing another push
Yes.
for summer camp registrants. Because again, most families probably get comfortable with, town of Wappinger fills up pretty quick.
Yeah.
But now since we have this luxury of 2 locations at pretty, solid numbers as well.
Sure.
We're going to be doing another push.
And I know I had sent out the camp district map to everybody of what the districts for the camps are. So we've had 38 kids, and I'm not finished yet, that have transferred from Martz, are going to Castle Point, and I made an awful lot of people happy on Saturday when kids who were on the wait list from the Martz side of town then got to go into Martz, because the spaces were freed up by the children going to Castle
So our
Point.
capacity, 160 over at Martz,
Correct.
Our comfortable capacity is 160 at Martz.
and we have 38 so far signed up for Castle Point?
It's a little bit more than that, it's just 38 that I moved over. Yeah.
I want to say thank you for, and to the supervisor, for expanding our offering.
It was important, it was so needed.
I remember when we didn't have anyone that was interested in really attending these, things come and go, trends come and go, right? There was a time where there was a really low count, right? And now we're starting to see it trending upward again. So I appreciate all the work you're doing. I agree that there needs to be a non-resident charge. I don't think it's unreasonable to establish it at, based on this scale that you have here.
Yeah, thank you.
And I have to say, I attended the Chelsea Hamlet Easter egg hunt, as well as a new New York State Blue Historical Marker unveiling at the Chelsea Post Office.
I saw that, yes. Who paid for that?
That was a Pomeroy grant that was actually led by 2 Arlington High School students. So I got to give
All
them
right,
a shout out.
let's get them back, because we got a couple more locations. I saw you post that today. That's great that they have that there.
Yeah, and I'll get into that a little more under new business, but I have to say, in talking to the folks on Liberty Street and out in that Chelsea Hamlet, they are so excited. Some of them still have toddlers, so they're going to age into the program, but they're so excited to see the playground being erected, and so excited that summer camp is returning to the Hamlet there.
Yes.
So, good, definitely very positive for the second award.
Thank you.
All right. We had a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. The motion has passed.
All right, back to the office I go.
Carry on, Director Fulton. Thank you. Okay. That is it with our resolution portion of the meeting. Moving on to items for special consideration and new business. I wanted to, again, piggyback on some of the conversations we've had on the comp plan and the housing numbers in the town. This is something that is truly important, and I try to reiterate this as much as possible so our residents, our neighbors understand what we're dealing with in the town and why we are doing this. A lot of folks think, the additional housing, is going to be a benefit. But again, when we come down to explaining the fact that places like Nassau County, Westchester County have the most densely populated areas in the state, in the country, and what also do they have? Some of the highest taxes. It goes along with programs, infrastructure, government services that come along with the additional density. So again, by taking these approaches here in both the town code update and the comprehensive plan update, we are keeping the town affordable for those who live here. We are making the town affordable, the most affordable town in Dutchess County, for our young people and for our seniors to stay in their homes. That is a critical point that I need to stress to everyone when it comes to this comp plan update. Again, we have a housing ratio of 60% single family, 40% multifamily. 40% multifamily with 4,006 apartment units in comparison to 2 neighboring towns to us and only 10% multifamily. We're not saying that there isn't a housing need. We're saying that essentially Wappinger, as the smallest geographical town in this county and yet the second most densely populated, we can't continue to sustain this sort of growth in our schools, our roads. No one wants to sit on more Route 9 traffic or 9D traffic, and our water and sewer. So that is why we are moving forward with these comp plan updates. And again, I appreciate the support that we're receiving from both the public and my colleagues to move forward with these changes. With that said, we have some of the most exciting projects going on in the town right now. It's almost unheard of right now that we have nearly 10 capital projects going on throughout the town that are mostly funded through either grant funding, ARPA funds, or private donations in this town. We are seeing our new live performance stage at Schlott House Park continue to be built, and all of the concrete has been poured out there, so that's very exciting. The renovations inside the old farmhouse there at the park, Schlott House, are moving along as well, and that has gutted that entire building for additional programming space. That's thanks to a county grant that we obtained for $17,000. At Carnwath Farms, we were able to get back $100,000 in state and county grant funding to do new HVAC in that building. So for the first time in 9 years, the Sports Museum of Dutchess County and the Reese Cultural Center have bathrooms, running water, and air conditioning and heat. And again, that was funded thanks to a grant that we obtained from the county and the state to now offer that facility year-round to our residents. I would like to invite my colleagues down for a tour of Carnwath, especially to see the chapel that has been renovated. Councilman Casella came down and I showed him the progress there. The chapel will be opened this week. It will be completed and made available this season for weddings and various event rentals for our community. It is truly a beautiful, beautiful space, and we cannot wait to share that with the community. That is, of course, paired with a $30,000 private donation from the Friends of Carnwath to enhance the site with various trees and landscaping, no cost to the taxpayers, but creating an additional amenity and attraction to that park property, and we are grateful to them for that. As we noted before with summer camp, Castle Point Park, the playground is starting to rise out of the ground, which is exciting. A number of the children in the second ward are excited for that, and that will be ready for summer camp. And Fleetwood Park, our new Fleetwood Park, outside of the sewer treatment plant down there in the neighborhood, in a new location, will begin work following paving when our highway department finishes that work. We have been in touch with our Hometown Heroes families. We have communicated with them that the town of Wappinger will be taking on this project, separate from the Wappinger Veterans Advisory Committee. And we have identified Myers Corners Road and Middlebush Road as the main Hometown Heroes corridor where those banners will be placed. And we are also launching a Walk of Heroes, which we will highlight throughout the year and years following. 50 banners at Schlothouse Park to go on a walking path surrounding the town of Wappinger War Memorial there. That will, again, put a number of veterans cycled through every year in a place of honor, in a place of reflection at that park, and we've done a number of site enhancements there to fix the drainage and again make that a nice spot for our community. And of course, as we mentioned with the earlier resolution, paving, the highway department is working around the clock to get these roads paved, many of which again have not been touched in 20 years, reconstruct them, and that progress is moving along very, very well. And I'd like to thank Councilman Casella for joining us in our annual Earth Day cleanup, which we had over 30 volunteers come to. It was amazing. Thank you to those in the audience that participated. We hit Imperial Boulevard, which is a nightmare, and we're going to be communicating with the Village of Wappingers Falls to issue code violations on Imperial Plaza for their lack of maintenance over there, as well as Myers Corners Road, which has been cleaned up as well. So definitely huge shout out there. And Troop 145 from Houstonville cleaned up Reese Park. They pulled out shopping carts, bed frames, you name it. Definitely a lot of work there. And then Pack 40 was over at Carnwath Farms doing a lot of work over there. So definitely a shout out to those groups as well. I would also like to provide, as my final update, we passed a MOA with the Village of Wappingers Falls for code enforcement. The Village of Wappingers Falls has hired a building inspector. Our MOA still remains in place. Obviously, as a contingency, we did not know how that was going to go. It was definitely an interesting couple weeks working alongside them, but we were there to help them. But I do want to make the public aware that the Village of Wappingers Falls is once again providing their own code enforcement at this time. So,
On that, I would like to see, before, terminating the MOA, I think we should entertain a mutual aid MOA for town, village, village-town. There are times at 2 in the morning where a building inspector is needed for emergency purposes, or a fire inspector is needed, right? And sometimes the town, perhaps they're not answering their phone or whatever, it happens. It would be good to have a backup. And we could talk about this offline, but the village and the town, I think, can continue a relationship from a code enforcement standpoint in that capacity. I think there can be some value to that.
Definitely. That's why we did not terminate the MOA, because we feel that this is a solid relationship that we've established, and we'll be working with Mr. Ligori on developing some sort of additional mutual aid agreement with them. Okay.
With respect to a couple items here, Wheeler Hill Road obviously has become a thoroughfare for folks that are cutting through, again, between New Hamburg Road and 9D. Of course, in recent months with the traffic, if you have CarPlay in your vehicle or you have Waze, it's sending you that way. I mean, I tried this the other day. It's sending you that way because 9D is backed up. So I'm not sure there's a simple answer to that, because the technology is basically seeing that traffic is slow on 9D and it's sending you the back way. So we're going to see what options exist. Can't really give you an answer for that right now, but we're looking to step up the patrols on Wheeler Hill for traffic enforcement. because people are flying through there again, and as the temperature gets warmer, that's going to continue, right? Same thing with Old Troy. That's on our radar as well, obviously. Dean Avenue, we're meeting on, what, Wednesday, Thursday? Wednesday, right? We're meeting with Dean Avenue residents again, discussing how we're approaching certain challenges there. Obviously, we put a weight limit on Dean Avenue, which should have been there. We want the GPSs, the commercial GPSs that truck drivers have to indicate that there's a weight limit. I know that that data has been uploaded, but it takes some time for the proprietary GPS units to actually receive that. It's kind of like Sergeant Palmatier Way, right? When we renamed Sergeant Palmatier, it took 4 to 5 years for the GPSs to reflect the new road name. It just takes time for that to work its way into the system. So we're going to meet with those residents again about that unique roadway. Shout out, in addition to the town folks that were out there, and I'm sorry I couldn't be there, had my hands full with my kids. I can't bring my kids out on the road, obviously, at this point to help with these things, because my one toddler is at that age where he just starts running. It's not good. Now I know why people put their kids on leashes at the Dutchess County Fair. I used to make fun of those people, but now I know why. I need one. But shout out also to County DPW. They were out on Myers Corners Road also, and they were way back in the woods.
Yes.
Right? You know how the wind blows south? They were way back in those woods behind Chase Bank. All right, I don't want to get them in trouble, but they were pulling stuff out of there the day before we did our event. So thank you to County DPW on Myers Corners Road. And, you know, not to belabor the point, but I'm going to repost the video of Central Hudson's presentation right here at our podium, which many folks have seen that presentation, where they specifically identified New York State's Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act as the reason why the delivery charges are so high. So I cannot become complacent, nor should anyone, with the out-of-control energy costs. It is truly unsustainable, and we're going to work as a town collectively to do our best to try to help the average person, because that's who it's impacting the most. That said, that's all I have. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the highway superintendent and the highway department. I saw them over by Pine Ridge today, paving. They do a fantastic job, and I know they're coming down to Carroll soon after that, so that's fantastic. Just a nugget to drop, because you mentioned the signs, Councilman Beal. The highway superintendent and I believe the supervisor had looked at a sign shop.
Yes.
And he's getting some solid costs. We spent $13,000 on highway signs last year. And with the new equipment, they can print the signs that you just talked about. So we can do those in-house instead of having them done outside.
Yes.
So that's an added bonus, and I think if you just cursory look at the costs, it'd be well worth it to look at.
And,
Yeah.
And I'm happy that you mentioned that, Councilman, because we took a tour with the highway superintendent last year
Correct.
to LaGrange, and then we just went to the town of Fishkill. They built their sign shop all in, tables,
No,
chairs,
I saw the
machines,
pictures, yeah.
40 grand.
Yep.
And they're printing signs in-house. Our concern, we have an amazing vendor, but she's getting up there in age, and she has hinted at retiring. We want to, again, be ahead of the game.
Sure.
And we'll be presenting the town board with some options to have an in-house sign shop. This way, we're not stuck left holding the bag.
I'm all for that. County DPW just did the same thing. They now can basically do a lot more than they could previously. What I would like to see, if we're creating our own signs, and this is not a front burner thing, this is something we need to get to when the time is right. All the private road signs, we need to relook at those.
Yes.
The private road signs that are the opposite color scheme, right, they're green on white, I think need to be larger, right? And I think they need to have PVT under road or lane so that people understand that they can't, you know, on their GPS may show a private road, they shouldn't be cruising through there, right? They need to understand that it's a private road and it's on private property. When we first installed these signs back in 2000, 2001, it was because 911 required that the private road names be assigned to parcels that had 3 structures on them at that time, right? So now we have several additional private roads that we have adopted, and we want to make sure all the private road signs are the same. Alpine Drive, which is Montclair Townhouse, is a totally different scheme, right? Randolph Avenue is a different scheme than Lauren Way, right? So I could just tell you from experience, when you're responding to an emergency, especially with EMS personnel or new troopers that aren't familiar with these private roads, they need to be larger and they need to be standardized. So if we're going to have a sign shop, which I certainly will support, I think that we can find great value from a public safety standpoint in that.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks.
That's what I got.
Thank you, Councilman.
So, from a number of the sports complexes, so start off with Robinson Lane. Again, Robinson Lane, we did the grub spraying, the tick spray, mosquito spray. We're also in the process of doing the seeding over there. We have a company that's going to do 2 fields. It'll be T-ball 1 and also R2. So those are 2 fields. Hopefully it'll be started very soon. I think actually your son plays on one of those fields, but that's not why we chose the field. It was in the worst shape.
Appreciate the sentiment. Thank you very much.
Soccer field, so as you know, we did go out and do the spraying again for them as well, to the grubs and tick. Tonight, we also approved the goalpost, which is good. But what we're looking to do now, as we kind of talked about this briefly tonight, is what can we do for seating? We have 3 proposals out there. I'm hoping to bring all 3 of those forward at the next meeting in May. At that point in time, hopefully we can go ahead and approve one of those 3. I think we have one that probably fits best right now. Again, the idea is to do some of the field maintenance now and then do the reseeding in the fall, which makes more sense. But again, that'll be a discussion we'll have at the next meeting, and I've been working with Chris Suarez to do that. Earth Day, as the supervisor said and Councilman Beal said, great event. We had a number of folks not only in the audience, but folks on the dais here that were out there. Again, we were on Myers Corners, but the opposite side, so we were going pretty deep into the woods too. So nice getting all those bags up there. We appreciate. We had some volunteers again in the audience that were helping out. The sewer letters, I want to keep emphasizing that with these sewer letters that the supervisor, myself, and Councilman Phillips sent out on behalf of our town engineer, again, we need to make sure people respond to those letters because, again, it's a cost to the residents. Midpoint, it's a $10 million project versus a $1 million. So we need you to respond about the sump pumps. Same thing with Wildwood. It's a $6 million project versus 1. We're getting very few inputs, and the inputs are due back on June 1st or so. So we need residents, whether you have one, you don't have one, you need to inform us, otherwise we're going to be going door to door. And there are some significant fines that you're going to pay if we find out. So again, we want to try to be proactive, work with the residents. Again, we want to help ourselves. And again, I'm in Midpoint myself, so I'm looking at a $10 million project. So I want all the help I can get, so I'm going around asking neighbors. So again, that's something we need to take a look at. 2 things, we have the Dutchess County Sports Museum coming up on May 3rd, this Saturday. So you need to do that. And on the 10th, we have Little League opening day as well. And one other thing I'll just talk about at the very end here at Carnworth. So I was up there with the supervisor the other day when they actually did the pouring of the cement for the front walk there. I got to tell you, if you haven't seen that, you need to go up and see it. It's like night and day. I guess they just repainted the front doors for that, but the lights there is 504 lights on chandeliers. It's incredible. Bill said he volunteered to put 499 up, so thank you. He'll be up on a scaffolding.
The lights are all in there.
We gotta get over there. You mentioned this to do a field trip over there. We set that up, please, because
I will.
I haven't had a chance to even see the inside since we were in there last time, and it didn't look like it does now.
It's night and day, and you can have events in there. So again, outstanding job by the contractor that was doing all the work there, and thanks to the board for approving all that money, because it does go a long way. And if we can get some rentals out of it, et cetera. Nice cleanup job, too, on the brush and stuff in the front of that building, in front of the mansion as well. So again, really, really nice job. So I want to give credit to the teams who went out there and did a lot of the good work, and we do appreciate that. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilman. I appreciate
One
you
other
going
thing
there.
is, we had the company that Councilman Casella got to take care of our 2 ponds,
Yeah.
Rockingham and Yale Apple Orchard. People don't realize that we're stocking
Yes.
Yale Apple Orchard, and we want to have a fishing camp there probably next year. We have to do some improvements to the property there, but it's something we can do. We have the place to do it, and it would be a wonderful thing for the town.
Yes. And I did put our recreation director in contact with the resident who actually has the New York State DEC permit for stocking. He's going to set up all the information with her. And then it's actually perfectly timed that we think that we can pull this off this year, that when we have to take the docks out of Chelsea in June for the boat ramp replacement project and revitalizing that marina down there, that dock that's in good condition, we can bring over to Yield Apple Orchard. So this way the kids can actually work and fish off of that. So Sal is aware of that. You know, we were talking about going off that peninsula there. This way they get a little more out into the pond. But we have a lot of very exciting things going on, like you said.
Yes, we do.
Thank you for adding that. Okay. And just piggyback again, Sports Museum of Dutchess County, noon this Saturday. It's the opening of the new Women in Sports exhibition. It's also going to be the first time that the chapel is open to the public, so I encourage everyone to come down then. With that, I see no further discussion, no need to go into executive session. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I make the motion.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Casella, second by Councilman Phillips. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. We are adjourned.